Stay free with me, Russell Brand.
The human ego is the formulation of an image in your mind that you have of yourself. It consists of visual image and to a large extent, a narrative that's connected, a story that you tell yourself, that you believe in, that you say, this is me, this is who I am. So you begin, as the ego developed, humans began to live with dividing themselves up into two. There's me and the image that I have of myself, and I live then through a mental image of myself. And so that is the split that happened. Perhaps this is what sometimes is described as the fall of humans into the egoic consciousness. And this is what we are still living with. And over the millennia, the ego has become stronger and stronger. So our entire identity is then based on that mental image that we have of ourselves, which in most cases is now become a narrative. This narrative you call me and my life. People call it my life, and they don't realize when they say my life, they're talking about a story that they're telling themselves in their minds. People carry this burden of, because every life is so problematic. Every life there's a heaviness to people's lives. It's a problem. Many people's identity is experienced as a big problem, and they're looking for a solution to this problem of me. Then you look to the future, and occasionally it helps you a bit. The future enables you to do things, and et cetera, But eventually, as you grow older, as I'm growing older, and I begin to realize the future is also very lethal. It's going to eventually kill you. First, the future gives you everything. It's all the possibilities are there. It's a wonderful thing to have time. It's time. The world gives you, the universe gives you time to do things, to acquire things, to get better at this or that. And then this beautiful thing, time, that you need for everything, and you have it, and then it turns around and it starts killing you. It gives you everything, and then it takes everything away. That is time, and that is the world that we live in. I call it the horizontal dimension, where things are, there's past and there's future. That's time. We live through memory and anticipation. Humans live mainly through memory and anticipation. And what they don't realize is the primary importance of the present moment. That will make their sanity, ultimate sanity. You have to seek that in the present moment rather than looking for it at some future point or in the virtual world. The virtual world is an amplification and an externalization of the egoic mind. In many cases, the human mind gets amplified there, and then you have it there on the screen. So I don't know what your initial question was. Let's see if we can get back to that. But it's all connected.
You once told me that in one of the conversations where I was troubling you, having gotten your phone number by illicit means, that you said you can never be happy in the conceptual mind. You are trying to find happy in the conceptual mind. And of course, the future is ultimately conceptual. The past is conceptual. My identity as an individual, as a male, the Narcissus identity. I was very taken with your explanation of that myth in the pure pool of unbounded potentiality, the super state of all unconscious possibility, connected perhaps to the limitlessness. A choice is made to identify with form, whether that form is physical or thought form. I like that at this point of distinction separation occurs. It reminded me too, as you alluded to, of the fall of humankind, of course, regarded as expulsion from the garden being a cultivated space where everything is immediately available without requirement or recourse for the external. Some people, I suppose, that are not of a spiritual persuasion would seek to say that this mythic memory of the garden is born of our shared individual memory of a uteral life where all of us live initially formless, then single cellular, bicellular, where we live suspended and all of our needs are met by the great eternal mother. And while we're on this sort of somewhat mythic pathway, Eckhart, I wondered if I might ask, as I felt you were on the brink of saying it when you talked about horizontal dimensionality, of the function of the mythic symbol of the crucifix when it comes to enlightenment beyond Christ's ascension. Is there a personal and relevant message for us in this image system?
It's a very profound image, and to appreciate it and understand it, you don't need to be a Christian to appreciate that there's deep wisdom embedded in that image. So first of all, you have, if you came here as an extraterrestrial, well, they're probably here already, but, and if you saw for the first time that...
Don't think I haven't noticed your initials.
Yes, well, that's true. I won't say any more about that. If so, an extraterrestrial, they would be very surprised at this, or the humans worshiping a man. There's not just the cross, because there's an image of the man crucified on the cross, and people are worshiping that image. So they would say, how does that make sense? What is that? So the central image of Christianity is the crucifixion, the man on the cross, which really is an image of suffering. The central image of Christianity is an image of suffering. In the same way that the central teaching of the Buddha is a teaching of the fact of human suffering, called dukkha, the primordial fact of human existence. Buddha taught the primordial fact of human existence is the fact of dukkha. Buddha said, wherever you go, whatever you do, sooner or later, or sooner rather than later, you will encounter some form of suffering. Dukkha is a Pali term. Pali is a language related to Sanskrit. Many Buddhist scriptures are in Pali, as you probably know. So dukkha can also be translated as unsatisfactoriness, unhappiness, misery, whatever. You could call it unhappiness in whatever form. So dukkha is suffering. The central image of Christianity is also an image of suffering, but it is also an image of the transcendence of suffering, because the crucifixion is the image of suffering, but it also points to the resurrection. The cross then is ambivalent. It has a twofold meaning. One, it's a torture instrument. It's the cause of human suffering of this archetypal human, as I call Christ. It's the image of, it's a torture instrument. But the cross also is a symbol of the divine. It's both. It's a torture instrument, and it's a symbol of the divine. In other words, it points to something that perhaps no human would have understood conceptually at the time, that the path of human evolution is the evolution through suffering. Eventually we awaken and we transcend through the experience of suffering. Suffering eventually awakens us. And the Buddha, when he talked about dukkha, he also added, he said literally, I teach suffering and the end of suffering, which means he was saying, I show you how suffering arises, ultimately how the human mind creates it.
Watch entire episodes on demand for free at rumble.com/Russell Brand.